So now we're going to look at the tissues that make up our bone. And this is going to make up our skeletal system. So the skeletal system is the bones, the cartilage that eventually becomes bones and covers the end of bones, and then the ligaments that actually help hold the skeleton together. And there are many functions for the skeletal system. The first being support. So this is going to help hold up your body. If you didn't have hard skeleton inside of your body, we would just flop around. So protection, we have several bones that provide our body protection. The skull surrounds and protects your brain. Your rib cage surrounds and protects your heart and lungs and a little bit of the liver. The skeleton is essential for movement. If we didn't have something hard for our muscles to pull against, we wouldn't be able to actually move. So in order to move, we need the skeletal system and the muscular systems. Electrolyte balance, so our skeleton stores calcium as well as phosphate, and those can be released to our blood as we need them or stored in the bones when we have extra. It's involved in acid-base balance, so along with calcium and phosphate, it can help to kind of absorb or release some alkaline salts, acting a little bit like a buffer. And our blood is formed in our bone marrow. So our red bone marrow is essential for the development of red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Our long bones are the long kind of extended bones that make up most of the bones in our limbs, so your legs and arms and fingers, and they have an outer shell that consists of compact bone. And then in the ends, you can see this kind of loose network of spongy bone. The space in the center here is called the medullary cavity, and this is full of bone marrow and blood, and the medullary cavity does reach up into this spongy bone area, so that's all of this red tissue in here amidst the spongy bone. There's the shaft, which is the diaphysis, reaching from one end to the other, which is kind of full of this hollow medullary cavity here. And then each end is expanded out into an epiphysis. So epiphysis is singular, epiphyses is plural because there's one on this end and one on this end. The ends of the bones that articulate into joints with other bones are typically covered in articular cartilage. So here's the top of the femur where it articulates with the hip. And then this is the bottom of the femur where it articulates with the tibia. Periosteum is a very thin covering on the outside of the bone. So the entire outside of the bone is covered in this periosteum, and this is where the ligaments are going to insert. It's a very tough covering. Peri is like perimeter, it means around. Osteum means bone. So the periosteum literally means around the bone. The endosteum is on the inside of the bone. So the endosteum is a very similar cavity, but endo means inside, and osteum is bone. So this is going to line that medullary cavity on the inside of the bone. Another type of bone we have are called flat bones, and these are typically going to have wide, flat surfaces, like the bones in your skull. And these make kind of like a sandwich. So they have an outer layer of compact bone on the top, and an inner layer of compact bone on the bottom. And then between those two layers is a layer of spongy bone called the diplo. Both outer surfaces are covered on periosteum. So there's periosteum on the outside there, and then periosteum on the outside of this side. The inside of the medullary cavity, so right here and right here, are where the endosteum lining is. So compare and contrast as many structures as you can of flat and long bones.